Like, we're both like, oh God, like, when are we going to get off of this ride, you know? And like, but I got so much fucking support from so many people all at once in my Slack. All these people are like, yo, our estimates are bumped too, and we're going to stand by you. Like, we were based on no real fabricated, like none of this shit is real. Oh, we're just going. All right, we'll just do it live.
That's how we do it, Ken.
Fuck it, we're doing it live.
Chat for a second. That's the problem. We always start, we'll want to have a brief catch-up or whatever, and then we just start talking about good shit, and I'm like, we're fucking missing out on all this great content. So I usually just push record, and then he goes, oh, thanks.
I'm with that. That's cool, man.
And then I say something inappropriate.
Well, cool. Well,
and,
welcome, Ken Hanson. Thanks for being on the show, dude.
Yeah, for sure, man. Thanks for having me. I'm super impressed by this. I mean, like everything you guys put out, it's always high quality and like astonishingly too high quality for a couple of dudes just slinging some shit on the internet. But
dude, I think that was our approach. I think we jumped in and obviously didn't know what we were doing. And the one thing that we knew we could do was like kind of start it with high quality. So like it was kind of the opposite version of like what you have taught me, which is stuck, and you've heard me talk about it on previous episodes, which is like launch something, it's not perfect, and then just fucking iterate. Well, with this, we literally like kind of perfected it, and it was like the content, which is the most important part, that we're like, all right, we'll figure this out on the go.
But we learned, like we had a podcast back in the day, and we knew that we fucked up the content part. We knew we could do all the other pieces of it, right? So it's like we made that like a focus of this one, right? And we still fuck it up for sure, but like we made it the goal. Like let's have a content, like a actual piece of content that makes fucking sense for once.
Yeah.
Well, and it's a perfect transition into like I think huge topic of the episode. But what sucked so much about our previous podcast was that we were, Ray says goldfish, and we're gonna dive into ADHD, but like we literally couldn't stay on topic, and so people actually, surprisingly, Ray and I just honestly did it for ourselves, but people actually listened, and the biggest comment that we got was like, you guys start so many like interesting stories that you never finish.
Yeah.
And then we would go back and listen, and I'm like, yeah, that's actually painfully true.
No doubt, man. Yeah, that is. I feel like that's like every conversation that Steve and I have had.
Well, but then add alcohol into the mix as well that we did before. So it was just total like, it was like they were all happy stories, but like that's what we should have done. That's what we should have done. We should have done an episode and then listened to it, and then the second episode should have been like finishing all the stories that we started the previous one. So
it's like the freaking
total.
Cliffhangers.
It's like
every Netflix episode,
but like 20 cliffhangers
every Netflix
in one episode. Though.
Yeah. See you next week. So why don't we go ahead and dig in? Well, so dude, I think I don't know if the audience knows, but the way we do these episodes is we share a little document to help us with this problem that we have and try to stay on track. Even though we did that before and it didn't really work. But anyway, it's working pretty well. But you basically like created a gold mine of content. And a lot of it is around, a lot of it's around ADHD. And like I mentioned before we started the show, Ray saw that and he was like, oh, that's me.
Yep.
And he's talked about it on the show. Like I said a minute ago, he refers to himself as a goldfish. And he tries to like utilize me to help keep him from goldfishing everywhere.
No doubt.
But dude, why don't we just kick off and, I know it's like the worst way to do it, and Ray just said, let's not do that. But like, just give us the brief intro of you, and then let's just dive in.
Yeah. I think this will be really like the most public I've ever really been about my ADHD.
Hell yes.
So I'm kind of stoked that I'm doing it with friends. Like that's awesome. I mean, because of that, and whether I knew it at the time or not, just because I was really diagnosed late in life, like
how long ago?
About 2 years ago. So it's still real fresh, I'm still like working through all that like baggage that finding out, oh shit, this is why like, all this shit was happening to me all the time. you know, I wish I had known.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, the one thing and this isn't like, not a circle jerk, but like you're one of the most interesting people I know, one of the most talented people. And one of the things that I think, whatever, but one of the things that I think your curse is also your gift. I kind of feel like, cause I've told this story a handful of times, but like you get so interested in a thing and you will literally, you stayed up at our old office for probably 3 days. And every day I would come in and you would be stacking up the Mountain Dew cans. But then the bad side of that would be that like once you lost interest, you were like, fuck, I just want to go on to the next thing.
Oh yeah.
And I remember you and I like having some conversations where I was like, Ken, please, I just need you to finish this one thing. You're like, yeah, I will, but God.
Just get all this boring shit done, please.
The boring shit that was like the most exciting 2 weeks ago. But that's the timeline I would always give you. I'd be like, Ken's going to be hot for 2 weeks. How can we like manage this? But one of the funniest things that I remember was you got really excited about building log cabins. Do you remember? Do you remember this?
Yeah.
You bought. I think you bought like 11 books on log
all
cabins.
at once. Just yeah.
And then eventually I was like, "Hey, how's the log cabin thing going?" You're like, "Fuck, I don't know why I bought 11 books on log cabins."
That's actually, I still have those books and I still look at them quite often, and it's still kind of a goal of mine to go out there and like just fucking build one, But it's a pipe dream, and my fiance will never allow a cabin as a permanent residence. It's just a vacation destination now.
Yeah. we talked about this before.
But yeah, that's right.
Just like something I do just because I'm in the same boat is like I put it on my board. If it's still there, like I forget even like how what I said, like it's 6 months or a year or something like that later, and I still actually give a shit about it, then it's like it's almost like it restarts the engine for me, and then I'm like, okay, now I'm gonna dive into that again. So it's like so keep your books. That's telling you like you've got some super interest in it. It's gonna start back up again. But
we talked about making a product that helps you narrow down your products over time, because Ray, he's like the idea guy, and he has like, I mean, it literally is every day. Well, multiple times every day, he'll text me and say, "Yeah, I have another idea. Sorry, but we got to talk about it."
Nice.
Or like last night, we were talking about something, and like I was like, "Oh, I'm like exactly like you, Ken." I was like, "Oh, well, here's a site that showed me how I could do it." And oh, these people already had the problems that we were talking about. And, oh, here's an example of one of it. I was literally like, I was texting. I literally like caught myself. And I think it was like 11 o'clock at night. I was like, oh, shit. I'm just like texting Steve like 20 times in like 5 minutes at 11 o'clock over something fucking random. This random idea that I just
It's
dove
like
into.
It's the version of like there's memes about it. Like, one spouse like texts the other all the time and the other replies with like, "That's cool."
Yeah.
20 more.
That's I'm the annoying one.
Yeah. Well, dude, tell us, what made you decide? What did that process go like? Because I mean, you and I've known each other for like at least 15 years now. It was back in the Intelligent days, and I've always known a version of you that was like this, maybe sometimes more extreme or not. What was the catalyst that made you sort of like? You said 2 years ago is when you got diagnosed. Like, what made you go even get checked out for it?
I just, me and my fiance were years into the relationship, and my fucking time blindness is going to prevent me from remembering exactly a number, but she had just stumbled on some Reddit article that somebody wrote up and was like, and it was deep and long, like a hyper focused ADHD individual would produce, but it was all about basically these struggles that I kept complaining about, and I kept telling her like, man, I'm just really getting fucked by this COVID shit. Like, I don't know how to operate right now anymore. I don't know what's wrong with me. Like, and she was like, I think you got to check this Reddit post out. This guy is just saying all the same shit you're saying. Like, and then I go read it and like, oh man, I'm ADHD. Like, I need to go and get diagnosed and get treated and, like, take this shit seriously, you know? Because it's not like, I didn't even know what it meant. Like, I you know, in the notes, I wrote, like, we aren't all just a little ADHD, right? Like, and, like, that's how I thought, though. Like, I thought,
well, that's a good point, because I don't know, because I haven't dug in, but I kind of always felt like we're all a little ADHD.
Nah, man, definitely not. And that's like, now, I'm not gatekeeping, right? If you feel this shit is like real for you, like, fucking go talk to somebody. But like, it's untreated. It is, and especially if you're not aware of it, it affects every minute of your life. Like, and it's not something that you grow out of. It's genetic. Like, they can see it in like brain differences, like in scans and shit. Like, your brain fundamentally works differently than every other person that's neurotypical, like, around you. And like, it's super critical that you know this so that you don't develop these awful fucking like loops in your mind about why you're lazy or like. And like a common thing that you'll grow up hearing, and I did, and I don't blame my folks for this at all. They didn't have a fucking clue. Sure. And if we tried to get diagnosed back then, like, they would have just probably diagnosed us incorrectly with like a learning disability or something. But like, now they know so much about it, and like, like they would say, like, I mean, if you could just spend half the effort that you're putting into like your art, like on math, like you'd be crushing it, you know? Or this was easy for you. Why is this simple thing so hard for you? Or, you know, like all these other things that are just so natural for a parent to say, like, and just they're bewildered. They don't get it, man. Like, and it's fine, because I didn't either. Like, nobody really did back then, but like, it's advanced so much in the studies and the scientific research around it that it is just one of the most well-known and well-understood things in like psychology now. And like, it is just so difficult to like hear kind of people brush it off like as nothing after you realize, like, man, my car broke down every day and I worked on it a certain way that every other person told me to work on it as, but nobody told me I was driving a fucking different car than them.
I was,
you know, and if I had just known that, like, I could have made so much more like ground on self-improvement and like acceptance of myself than you know, this shame cycle that a lot of like adult ADHD, you know, late diagnosed people are suffering from, you know. And like, it's not like just, oh, you know, why didn't I do that? Like, every fucking person on the planet talked to me that way when I was growing up. And like, you know, I internalized that as something's wrong with me. Like, I'm lazy, which is hilarious because hearing you describe me is like so far from what you'd ever say, you know?
Yeah,
like,
I would never describe you as lazy.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, I've slept under desks. I've been at client sites sleeping in their shit, like getting projects launched, you know? Like, it's not like, it's a soapbox for sure. I don't want to like go just ripping on this topic forever.
I'm curious,
but,
though, like, what age do you think, though?
Yeah.
Because I mean, I'm in the same boat. I got kids that I feel like almost like I think exactly what you just said that your folks were saying about, you know, like my son can be a little crazy on that end. But also, like, I really dug into like a lot of the neurology stuff of like early education and things like that. And like, there's a certain like age group that their brain's still being wired, right? And it's not there yet. So it's like, I'm curious, what age do you think it's like, okay, now it's a thing that we should go check out? Because I've always, hate's the wrong word, but I've always hated when parents like take like a 4 or 5 year old that's literally like, they're still like a baby, you know, just like playing and figuring everything out, and they take them and get them on and get them on like, you know, on meds and stuff because they can't focus, or they're like they're playing so much and they're like having a good time, like they're kids. You know, which I feel like that was where it gets mixed up, where it's like a kid growing up playing and figuring things out, and then like, oh, there's an issue that we need to medicate. And I think there's like a gray line there. So I'm curious your age line on that.
Yeah, there in psychology there's an age that they're willing to diagnose at, and I don't know that answer. I've mostly studied like the adult side of things.
But let's just say
I definitely,
because you have a fiance, you know, you got your kid. They're like, that, like, and they're a little like you see yourself in them, right? And like is there an age that you're like, I mean, they're 5, I need to wait until they're at least, you know, like just like in your head, like, I'm just curious.
Yeah,
not medical advice.
Again, our disclaimer: we are not doctors.
I think I think once I can, you know, communicate with that kiddo like at length and like really understand like that they're going through some serious emotional reactions, and like it's not just them being young or trying to get something from me, like they're really struggling. I think that would be when I would start working on things like mindfulness and things like, you know, listen, like box breathing really works, and like you got to really understand it right now, because like your emotional like circuit is so like highly tuned to only be 11 or negative 11. They're like, you got to figure out how to start dealing with this shit now, like, because it's gonna really fuck you as an adult if you don't. You know.
Well, so you're kind of saying like as early as you. I mean, so like,
as soon as I start spotting it,
yeah. So like, my son's 7. Raised kids are 8 and 10, I think.
She's about
8 and 9.
10.
Yeah.
So like, I know right now I'm starting to be able to have like pretty solid, real discussions. Like, it's just the beginning though with my 7-year-old. So like, potentially even like, you know, before you're 10, you know, you could probably. You know, we're just all speculating right now, but that's probably when you can start to see, like, okay, maybe it's time to just, like, do at least an early evaluation and not maybe even make, you know, any real decisions, but just get that sort of first, you know, what do you think, Doc? And they're like, yeah, probably some things we need to watch out for or whatever.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like, I mean, so the percentage that your kid has ADHD, if you have ADHD, especially if it's running through the male line of your family, is astronomically
my wife has
high.
it too.
Okay, so you're going to deal with it.
My wife has it as well, probably worse than me. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you're mixing a couple of people with ADHD, you're almost guaranteed to have a kid with ADHD. It's very rare, like that it skips, you know, like, but because it is very much genetic.
Hold on, what is box breathing? You said that, and you just kind of like
I figured we might.
I was like, what the fuck is that?
Maybe let's transition into like just some of the things that you're starting to do. I don't know if that's just too quick of a transition, but I heard that too. And I wrote a note down.
Box breathing is what your Apple Watch is telling you to do when you breathe. When it says time to breathe, and then you do your breathe thing, like, and you follow the instructions, or your Fitbit is trying to get you the stars in the background and sync up with you or whatever, like while you do this breathing exercise. Android has it too. All of them are doing it right now. Because it fucking works, and it actually like really helps people a lot. And with all the sensors and shit built into these watches, like that's how they're able to pull it off and like be able to track if it's working for you. But like, it's well, actually, I'm not 100% sure if I understand the description correctly, but essentially, it's long breaths in through your nose, and then you let it out, kind of. All very easily, but you're just working through a box of breathing.
Okay, I hadn't really heard
you're
that
just
term.
Cycling through it.
I've done some of the Wim Hof stuff, and like you can definitely.
It's crazy, but I love that topic.
I did. So one of my coaches got really into Wim Hof stuff. I started doing like the ice baths and stuff too. I've been doing that for a while. And but the breathing stuff is really interesting. I did it kind of a coached class a couple of times. And you do this, weird, I don't remember what it is. You can literally go and search like Wim Hof, like breathing instruction or whatever on YouTube, and it'll take you through it. But by the end of it, dude, I felt like it was a combination of like high euphoria. I can conquer the world. And also it made my hands like crumple up all weird. It had some really weird like mental and physical effects, but it was awesome. And I felt great afterwards. But I've also used it when I've done like longer sessions and the ice baths, because that shit is like fucking painful. And you breathe, and you couldn't, if you didn't have like the breathing techniques, like it would be very hard just to sit in there and endure the pain.
Yes.
So there's just a lot you can do with breathing. I haven't heard of that box terminology. I'll definitely look that up. But Ray and I also we were talking about a couple episodes about trying to, what was it? basically we were talking about criminals and how they're trying to like, get one over on, the detector or the I'm really butchering this, but like, when I know you could hopefully you know what I'm talking about, right? But basically like, we were talking about like when they're being interrogated and they're like you can see the facial expressions and you can get all this shit out of people without them even knowing. And we were talking about the one thing that you can do is, or that I think we've both heard stories of is like people utilizing, it's even like a Navy SEAL kind of thing. It's like, in order to get your head straight, there's like these breathing techniques that are like almost like guaranteed to like allow you to get to a different place than you are when you're like fucking freaking out and shit.
Yeah.
So anyway,
and
derailing you a little bit, but
no, that's box breathing is just it's like a meditation term more than it is like some kind of like system or something. It's really attached to mindfulness.
Back when I was like at Inside,
but it's just a way to breathe.
San Francisco, when we were part of this incubator, there was this one company that I was like, I thought was like gonna be the $1 billion company, but this was like before the Apple Watch got good, and it was like only a Fitbit and stuff. But their whole thing was they were trying to fix PTSD, which is like it has a lot of similarities, right? Of like just like the way that the brain's like freaking out and it reacts to different stuff. Is at least from like what, again, not doctor, just from like what I read. And what they were doing is they had created their own little hardware thing, and it was detecting the same way that the Apple Watch is like, all right, you need to breathe a little bit, like let's take a break, or you need to take a walk. Like, it was basically like, imagine you're like, they were in a car and they're driving and they get road rage. It was like detecting like their heart rate spiked like crazy, and there was all this kind of stuff, and their temperature was changing, and like it would be like, I need you. It would like either call them, send them a text, or it would just like trigger them to.
That's amazing.
Like, okay, I can tell you need to talk about something right now. Let's change the subject. And like, you know what I mean? Which I think that's something that's like that's not part of what's out there right now. Is like the proactive approach. Like.
I have searched and searched for this shit because like a giant part of ADHD really is emotional dysregulation, where you can't control your emotions well at all. Because your brain is so naturally impulsive, and impulse control in general is just crushingly difficult to control as an ADHD individual. And so like my singular goal of trying to track down a device has spanned years now.
I believe it.
Trying to just find a device that will be like, hey, are you angry?
Yeah, that's that's the you guys similarity. Like Ray was talking about last night, he started going down the wormhole. I've seen you go down the wormhole, like when we were working on projects, and find this one little thing that was in a blog post from fucking 1989 or some shit. You're like, that's how we do it. But, so since we're talking about some of these things, what are some of the cues? Like, so when would you utilize? When do you know you need to do a box breathing exercise? Like, what makes you go like, all right, I need to do that shit? Or is it just a thing that you wake up and do every day?
Let's get you in real trouble. Like, what exactly did your fiance say to you that like set it off, and now she's gonna be pissed? And so let's get you in trouble. I'm just kidding.
I use it a lot before meetings that are high power. So I know I'm rolling.
I know you hate those kind of.
And it's like so hilarious because I'm a product manager now, and so it's just like, I mean, the craft is people management, and influence without power, and it's just exhausting sometimes because you're fucking right. Like, you have evidence, you're gonna bury them in it if you need to, but like you got to go into this shit where they got their eyes closed and they got their opinions, and you got to try and convince them of it, and so like. Those meetings, I will almost always do at least like 3 to 5 minutes of box breathing.
Yeah.
Or just like a Headspace, mindful, app usage. I usually try and start my day with it. I usually try, and this is a big one, especially if you're ADHD. I think anybody that doesn't know their ADHD will relate to this, but shifting gears is fucking hard. So like, just because it's 5 p.m. and my fiance expects something out of me at that point in time, and I've got all manner of fucking reminders to let me know that shit's important to her. Like, to break that hyper focus, like 5 p.m. rolls around and I'm hammering out SQL and some like data lake trying to get to an answer so that I can actually get these executives to listen to me or something, you know? Like, I'm still programming SQL if I get off of that desk and I walk out and I'm talking to her and I'm having full conversations while I'm just wrapped up in this SQL.
She's like looking at your face, talking about something, dinner or like something emotional, and you're looking back at her going, yeah. But it really, you're
something
going like,
super important.
Oh, wait, maybe I need to. I'll be right back. I need to run to the computer.
Yeah, and so many times I've had to just explain, like, this has been such a journey for us together to like really get there. But like, so many times I've had to explain, like, I'm sorry, I'm still SQLing right now. You know, like she, you know, that's not how you say it, but like that's you know, she understands that.
Well, that's fucking
cool.
Actually.
Now she does.
So you found someone that can like understand.
But now, really,
or.
Well, you know, she's not excited about it.
To understand what's going on. That's the key.
There's 2 components. Yeah, there's the I understand it. Nobody's going to be excited about it. Like they're like anybody, right? You know, it's like, no, I kind of wanted you to be done to do this thing, but at least there's like, all right, Ken's, you know, fucked up head is like doing his thing or whatever.
That's it. Yeah, and I mean, this is how I know that, you know, we'll be together for the rest of our lives, is that she can put up with my shit, like that I've always attributed to just my shit, you know, but like it's not, it's my fucking brain and I can't help it. Like, and if the meds roll off and start tapering down at the end of the day, shit's going to get crazy in there like fast and it's going to be really hard to deal with. So like now I time my meds and I know when that shit's going to drop, you know, and I'm like real rigorous about it. And so the other time I'll do box breathing is at the end of the day when I actually need to disconnect. And I need to stop. And I have to center my thought patterns and shit like back to me and my body and not like in fucking code and the ether that doesn't exist, you know?
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. So you kind of use it as sort of your go-to for like mindset change or mental.
Red light, green light is what I'm getting out of it. Right, it's like either stopping something or starting something. It's like you know, it's like
because shifting gears is super hard, right? Again, like it's just really critical to say that. Like shifting gears is significantly harder for somebody with ADHD than it is somebody that's just neurotypical.
Multitasking is not real.
And there's actually like there's really interesting shit about like why that it's hard. So like, if you'll permit me to expand on this a little bit for a little while.
Oh yeah.
Like,
well, before you start, I just one little thing, and I wonder if it's relevant. But like, we did some work with. Actually, I can't remember if you're still at the company or not at the time, but we worked for quite a few years with the Center for Brain Health Institute, and.
No, that was right after I left, man.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember seeing you guys.
Which would have been the perfect project for you to go.
Yeah.
But anyway, one of the things that one of their head PhDs talks about is context switching. So I feel like there's probably some correlation, but even in a non-ADHD person, like continuous context switching or too much context switching throughout the day, there's apparently, and I don't like have the citation for this or anything, but apparently there's a huge correlation with Alzheimer's.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Really?
So like that was one of the biggest things that they were like, I think that's probably, now I know about the book Deep Work and I think it's about that, but I know that there's a lot of conversation in the, our type of community about self-improvement. That's about like finding, swaths of time that you can focus. And so I know you're going down that path. It just kind of, I wanted to bring that up because it makes me kind of wonder if there's like strong correlations there.
Well, I will say ADHD is like buy one, get 7 free. So like, I mean, it's just kind of a brutal thing to get diagnosed with, but like, so maybe, like there's a lot of comorbidities there that just suck. Like all of them suck. Like almost guaranteed to be an anxious person, like whether that is an environment or not, because of the way you weren't diagnosed and grew up that way or how you deal with things. But like the big one really with, how difficult it is to shift gears and context switch intentionally is here's how your life goes if you're ADHD. You understand, just like every other person, how important the thing is that you need to get done is to get done. Mm-hmm. But because you have zero fucking control of dopamine and your brain is constantly starved of dopamine, you're physically uncomfortable with things that are boring. Yeah. So if it isn't activating dopamine in your brain, it's so fucking hard to start and like also stop. So you go your whole life with no fucking control over your attention span, no control over your focus. When it hits you, you just grab it and you ride it for like all it's worth, and then you fucking like, you know, and like pass out at the end of it, like, and you need to recover, right? But that cycle is like pounded into you because when you finally get focused, that the world keeps telling you you should be able to control, and it finally is gifted to your brain. It's all messed up and totally in this weird circuit. You find it very difficult to actually context switch because it's so rare to have the focus, and so it is an emotional like roller coaster when you have to rip yourself away from something that is feeding you dopamine that you are starved for all day.
Yeah.
And so that's really why like meds are so fantastic at so many parts of the ADHD side. This should not be looked at as saying meds. ADHD meds are bad is like saying a wheelchair is terrible for somebody that can't walk. Like, that's a fucked up way to think, and you gotta let it go.
Great analogy.
Yeah, you know, and it's true. Like, you know, if a pill with a child's dose of amphetamines in it once a day can give me operating like capabilities that a neurotypical has, it's just, why wouldn't I take that?
Yeah.
You know? Totally. Like, and like, it alleviates like, so much of the problems.
Maybe too. This is a stretch, but it's almost like a supplement, right? Like, you supplement things that your body needs that you can't produce or you don't get enough of through normal food. It seems very similar. It's like your body needs this for you to be, well, and honestly, like, I know, you know, meds and all this get demonized, and I mean, for good reason in some instances, but also like, you know, great that we have these things, but on an individual level, if it allows you to live like a better life, you know, fuck it. Like, who cares what anybody, like, you don't think I should be, well, give me a better way to do this, you know, give me a better way to like live a better life without doing the fucking meds.
Now, I will say, like, you know, without knowing I was ADHD, there's a couple of ways like people, you know, overcome their own ADHD without even knowing they have it. High intellect is a big deal. That's going to let you kind of skip past all your shortcomings, like, and look normal most of the time.
What do you mean? Like,
the other one?
What do you mean by that?
Well, like, if you're wicked smart as a kid, and they would classify you gifted or some shit, right? Like,
oh yeah, right. So he's weird, but like, it's just because he's so smart.
Sure. Yeah, and like, you can function better in that environment because your working memory, yes, it is half as good as everybody else's, and like, you can't hold on to a thought as 1,000 internal thoughts that are lightning speed faster than the neurotypical person are all hammering you, and you have no executive function to sort that shit out. So they're all important all of the time. Like, erase whatever you were trying to think of, right? If you have a high intellect, you're likely to be able to work around that and say, well, I'm just going to think of something faster, slightly related, and nobody will know. I forgot my point. Right?
Oh, gotcha.
Like, or, you know, I can't get my homework done when anybody tells me to do my homework or my project or, you know, insert adult shit. But I am wicked fast at getting shit done that is kind of brainy, and so like I'm gonna work that way, you know. And then that kind of gets you, kind of, the topic will quickly get you into like that. Why am I so constantly procrastinating and swearing I'll never do it again? But that's when I produce the best work of my life all at one shot, right? And like, it's all part of it, man. It's all so fucking common. Like, if this sounds familiar to you, like, at all, like, it's just normal for an ADHD person to operate this way that just doesn't know that they're, you know, diagnosed.
Okay, so the funny thing is, like, a lot of things you're saying, I'm like, Like maybe I need to get checked out. But I don't think we're the same at all. Like, you know, in terms of like, is there I feel like the obvious answer is yes, but like, is there like a spectrum of like, you are extreme ADHD versus...
There's 3 types.
Okay.
Even. Yeah. So there's 2 ends of the spectrum. You have hyperactive. Is that right? Shit. I know my end of the spectrum really well.
What's yours?
There's hyperactive, and then there's combined, where you're kind of getting fucked in 2 directions, but not as extreme as both sides. And then there's my side that's like, and I'm like 11 out of a 10 on inattentive. And so you just cannot hold your focus.
Gotcha.
Like, you are so quickly distracted by, like, I can see the fence line in the window in front of me, and a squirrel lurks all fucking day. And it's a literal squirrel.
It's the literal Homer Simpson thing.
Stealing my focus in the middle of, like, this call right now. And I have to, like, gear, like, if my meds weren't on fire right now, like, I would be suffering, like, trying to keep up with this conversation, because I'm so interested in this little dude that shows up in the edge of my monitor and the other edge of my monitor over and over.
Yeah. Oh man, what an interesting... So you just made me think of like all the notifications and distractions that we get nowadays. Because like,
dude, you have to control your environment so tightly as an ADHD person, or it will just fuck you sideways.
I feel like those fuck even the regular person.
Yeah, no. Now imagine notifications deliver enormous amounts of dopamine.
Yeah,
that shit pinging over here like is so fucking exciting because it's unknown, it's new, it's interesting. You don't know what's on the other side, and it's a variable reward over and over and over.
Yeah.
And your brain is geared for that gambling mechanic,
like
all fucking day, right?
Oh,
if you're ADHD,
I bet even more so if it comes from something like a social app like Instagram or something. You're
exactly.
Like, did I just
something that's definitely going to screw up your day?
What's interesting about what you're saying, because I just read recently and I was like, oh fuck, that's me. Is like there's this other piece that it's like it's harder to create dopamine, right? And so it's like I always think about myself like I literally will fucking sell everything right now and I'll move somewhere. And like that was the thing for me. So the ways you just describe it, it was like, oh, it's new, it's exciting, it's like I don't know what's on the other end of it. I would do exactly that, but it wasn't the notification. It was like I'm just gonna move to a fucking another state or another fucking city or something.
Yeah.
And so it's like, but for me, it was like that was like the only time like I feel happy, like where I'm like, all right, I'm starting over. It was like finally I could stop and I could start something new, and like it was like I realized after reading all this stuff, I was just like, oh. So it's like I'm not just like a gypsy, you know, and like he's like, no, it's like that's the only way I could be happy is like just fucking, you know. So I don't know, it's interesting.
Which that point specifically was like I was very reluctant to maintain my friendship with Ray because one time he moved, it was like we were like, you know, Ray and I have been friends for a pretty long time, probably almost 20 years, I think, something like that. But and we like really hit it off through some other friends, and so our friendship would like kind of build and grow, and then Ray would move, and we sort of kept in touch. It was early on, so we weren't quite as tight of homies, but we still kind of kept in touch. And then he moved back, and then we became great homies, and our wives became friends. And we even like went over to their house and watched
fucking Twilight.
What's that vampire movie?
That one.
Twilight. Yeah, Twilight. Which is pretty funny.
I'm going to get no points for this, but I like those fucking books, man. They're great, dude. Like I read them.
Okay.
You know? Don't touch
what
me.
Team are you on? What team are you on?
I think I'm 100% Edward. Yeah, Team Edward, man. I like that moody, angsty motherfucker. Like,
yeah, I'm a wolf. I'm a wolf for sure.
Yeah.
My wife's Team Edward, but she knows she lives with more of a Jacob.
But anyway,
there was 1 year. No, this is important stuff. There's a year that I actually had cut off.
This is why I wanted to be on this podcast.
There was 1 year, one summer that I had cut off jean shorts, and I was feeling really good, and I just wore those cut off jean shorts all the time. And I was like, "Well, honey, I hope you like this. Like, I'm a fucking werewolf. This is what we wear."
And that's when she told you.
I love it, dude.
Edward.
Yeah, basically. So just so you know,
but she don't sparkle. Oh, amazing, dude.
Well, okay, so what are some of the other things, like you mentioned briefly Headspace? Is that a regular part of your life? like to meditate.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Dude, I will tell
Yeah.
you, I love the idea of meditating, and I had a brief stint in my life where it was actually back when we were both working together, because you were one of the. No, you didn't show up super early. I don't know. I just remember setting, because your desk was like pretty close to mine. It was in the same row or whatever. Yeah. But I did really good.
Yeah, that was cool.
Because I used to like come in super early, and nobody would be there, so I would do these 10-minute sessions. And then as soon as I tried to I was like, I'm crushing it. And I tried to go up to the 20-minute sessions, and man, it crushed me. And I just like fell off the wagon. And so I continually pay for my Headspace subscription for $100 a year. And I suck at doing it. But so do you do it every morning, or like what's your meditation routine?
That's my goal, really. The goal post is every morning. Sometimes it doesn't work out that way though.
Right.
You know, and like really like a lot of the therapy that I've been, you know, making sure to mix in with the meds to treat my ADHD has led me down a path of kind of radical self-acceptance. And so, like, just giving myself some fucking grace, man. Like, I don't feel guilty about spending $100 a year on a subscription. A, those fuckers need that support. That's a damn good app, and it's helping a lot of people. But B, like, that tool worked for me in that moment or that stint of time, and now I'm doing another tool, or something else is filling that time, and that's okay. Like, and I'll pick that tool back up when I need it. And I mean, this is like a really kind of important thing for people to like latch onto, is that you've got to give yourself grace, especially if you have ADHD. Like, I used to beat myself up about every to-do list switch and how I could never make one fucking work, and your bullet journals and all this shit. I'm doing all of it, right? Like, and I'm trying everything that every person has told me. That's just, but that day, Google Tasks got it done.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow, I'm going to transfer that shit to something else, or just fucking abandon that shit and start over in another thing. And like, it's a whiteboard now, and like, that's fine. Like, that shit is, and my fiance taught me this, like, came up in our, you know, couples therapy, like, and like, that shit like made it work so much better for me to just look at it that way. Like, especially if you're ADHD, your shit is changing so fast, so often, that you can't like get so locked in on one thing. Because I mean, we all know that shit, like, evolve or die, you know, like it, you're just doing that at like a hyper fast scale, like, and you're changing tools often, and like, that's okay. Like, there's nothing
that's
wrong
an interesting
with that.
point.
And so,
like I do feel like we you know, you get tools, and I think there's a couple of reasons that I think. One, you like pay for a tool or whatever, and then you try to get into the habit of using it, and then you figure it out, and you're like, I need to stay using this, but it's not necessarily working. You just like committed. You're just trying to commit, and like, probably to your point, you think it's you. It's like, this is a great tool. I just need to like use it or whatever. But I think that's a good point.
I was just more disciplined.
What's that?
You know, like, if I was a better human, I was just more disciplined. Like, I could just actually make this thing that cost me $100 a year work for myself, but I'm such a shit guy that can't get anything done, you know, like, and that's the cycle.
Yeah,
man.
and also
like,
it's gotten like 5-star reviews in the App Store, so it works for everybody else, right?
Yes,
that's actually one of the
the everybody else thing is brutal, dude.
Well, one of the things that because you and I like used to geek out about a lot of this stuff. We were in a lot of the same, like, you know, self-improvement stuff and and all that. But what was cool about having you as a buddy was like, you were always on to the next thing to kind of like, you would basically give me the assessment. You're like, okay, I got this, like the bullet journal thing. You're like, dude, here's how dope it is. And then I would just like watch you for a couple of weeks, and you'd be like, no, hang on, that sucks, don't get it. I'm like, all right, sweet.
Yeah, I would always try and make sure that I felt good about it by finding the negatives about it when I moved on, so that I could like live with myself for never being able to hold on to a habit, right? Now, this is like some deep shit nobody's thinking about while I'm just saying like, nah, bullet journal's trash. It's not, man. It just wasn't the tool for me that day.
Right.
And like, I know that years later now, but like, man, back then, I mean, I just felt so embarrassed that I couldn't like accomplish a goal.
That you couldn't like nail down like a routine. Because like when we worked together, that was kind of how we kind of scaled the company. Was we all started like, okay, we're going to have this process, and then we're going to adopt this, and then we're going to like, and so so I can totally understand like And
that's the other way, by the way. Like and this was really what like broke it for me and like made it. I had to go get treated. Was routine. Routine is so fucking critical for you to survive if you have ADHD. Like, you have to have more brain space available to yourself at all times, and routine, like, shrinks the amount of shit you're trying to figure out.
You don't have to think as much,
so,
right?
like, exactly. And when COVID hit, and we all, like, it was absolutely, and happened often, possible for me to just watch YouTube for 3 days straight, not respond to anybody on Slack at all.
Wow.
And just evaporate. And, like, nobody... I never lost my job. Nothing happened, man.
Yeah.
Like, nothing bad happened from that shit. And, like, I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to brush my teeth anymore. Nobody had to see me. Like, you know, it was like all this basic gross shit, you know? Like, I could go 2 days without showering and, like, nobody but my fiance would say anything, you know? Like, so, like, okay, if you break down your morning, you got some pretty normal shit you do every day if you have to go into an office, right? You got to pick your clothes out. You got to fucking get, you know, showered.
Yeah.
You got to get dressed. You got to deal with your hair. You got to go, you know, and like these things were so routine for me every day. And then like you roll in and you have some water cooler moments with some people and you connect with some human beings and you sit down and you bank some work out and you go home at the end of the day and you got to disconnect from your work at the end of the day and you're listening to your podcast on your way home in a drive that's probably too long. And then you arrive at your house and you're like normal and you're like good and everybody can deal with you, right? Like,
dude,
all that shit went away in one day.
That actually,
like, all at once.
You just spelling it out like that. Ray and I've talked a little bit about routine and kind of getting into the, you know, the zone and all that before, but like you just kind of like listing out the things that you have to do before we were pre-pandemic when most of us went to the office. Like those are things that like have nothing to do with you even trying to have a routine. You just have to do it. Like, yes, I can't smell like shit in front of people at the office. I have to take a shower, you know, and brush my teeth. And I have to get dressed, and I have to drive. And while I'm driving, I'm going to listen to a podcast. Then when I get to the office, I'm going to get coffee. Like, those aren't even trying. And that's, like, definitely routine. That, to your point, like, all of a sudden now it's like, wake up and there's the computer. Like, I don't need any of that. Those 12 other things I used to have to do just to, like make a living. Well, those aren't there anymore. Now what do I do? Yeah. Yeah. And, like... nothing was stopping me from ignoring those things. So, like, nothing. Like, and there was no ill consequence other than my fiance being like, you are gross. Like, you got to get your shit taken care of. Like, and I was like, wow, you're right. It's been like 4 days. Like, what's wrong with me? Like, I haven't combed my hair in 4 days. Like, what is going on? Like, and then you just get depressed, like, man, like, and then, like, so many people are coming out, like, figuring out all at once that they have some seriously mental health, like, issues that they have been able to control through routine by just trying to hold down a job that no longer is necessary if you don't have to go into an office. Right. And, like, it's brutal, man, like, because all at once now you're like, fuck, I have so much fucking work to do. And that was, like, actually... getting diagnosed, getting the meds, like that long ass process of getting the meds just dialed in right, like that, like. But I'm telling you, like within an hour of taking the first dose, like I was just like, oh my god, oh really? That
like,
quick, huh?
I can fucking function. Yeah, like amphetamines work that fast. Like,
yeah, I guess so.
And you feel it, like, you know, like it's just like, oh my god, like my life has been so crazy. Like this is how I could have been feeling the whole fucking time. Like shit. And then you look around and you're like, it's like you're living in like a decent house. It could be a great house, but you're living in a decent house, and you pop that pill. And bam! Every light turns on all at once, spotlights, and you just see all the roaches everywhere, everywhere, all at once, and all the corners that you've been ignoring because you had ADHD. And you
that's not where I thought you were
could just ignore that shit. You know,
the visual of all the roaches.
Well, I related.
That's like the struggle, though. You know, that's the struggle.
Like, I remember there'd be times where like there'd be a sock on the ground that I would walk by so many times. And then, like, when I would actually medicate, I'd be like, why the fuck haven't I picked up this sock this whole time?
Oh, exactly, dude. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Like, totally.
Guys, I definitely am looking around. I've got to get on this medication. I got some shit in the floor right here.
There's a reason that
no, go ahead.
That we love modafinil, or
I wasn't gonna bring that up.
Like Adderall, or like any of this shit that like there's a reason that like speedy stuff works for people, and like this all started clicking for me.
Yeah.
Like man, like like actually, and modafinil is alternative like drug you can use to treat ADHD. It's not popular because there's much fucking better drugs for it. But
well, plus like
it does a lot
you
of
and
the
I,
same
we
shit.
used to have to
man.
buy it with Bitcoin from India.
Yeah, exactly, dude. Yeah, that was my experience. And I'm not fucking titrating that shit and dosing correctly or anything. I'm just grabbing whatever Reddit told me to grab, and like I'm off to the races. But like like the reason, like coffee and caffeine, and like to no surprise to one of my best friends that I consider like a brother, like I was like, dude, hey, I got diagnosed and I'm ADHD, and it's pretty hard to grapple with. And he was like, you didn't fucking know already? Like, I mean, dude, I've watched you drink caffeine and just like mellow out like all at once. Like I drink caffeine and I'm like fucking wired, like. And I was like, no, I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I was like,
no idea.
You could have fucking said something at any point during this like decade of friendship.
He's like, I just thought you knew.
Yeah, he thought, oh, that's his kid. He knows. He's just dealing with it. He's treating it himself, whatever. I just didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know. Like, yeah. But it's been awesome, man. Like the overwhelming part of adding medication and seeing your life for real all at once. Like, that is why they talk about how important it is to not just get medicated. That's not a magic pill. You're still going to struggle with the same shit and being motivated, like, but you also need to deal with all this shit you built up over the years, that you're, these loops and these mental, like potholes you're bumping into all day, that you started your life knowing, like,
right. There's the
you might not have
looking
had,
back at like, oh man, I wish I would have known I wouldn't have fucked this up, or
Yeah, and it's like we're laughing a lot, but it's a really emotional thing. Like it's super hard to deal with, like, because you suddenly feel like you don't know who you are. This was you, and then now you're finding out it's just your symptoms,
right?
And then like, you're not just gregarious. That's just a mask you wear to cover up all the other shit that you're going through on the inside.
Yeah.
You don't even realize like this is all me. But
no. Well, no, seriously though.
And then you need that therapy that like can guide you through all that crap that you need to sort out, and like how to grapple with that stuff.
Well, let's actually jump to that. But before doing that, to your comment of like saying this is just me, I do feel like there's probably, I think what's cool is there's probably a lot of people that are like, oh yeah, no, that sounds familiar. Like maybe it would be like important for a lot of people to just kind of get themselves evaluated and kind of see,
I couldn't even, I mean, just for the peace of mind, like just fucking do it.
Well, like I honestly, no joke, I was making the joke, but now I just want to know. I'm like, okay, just so I know. Well, one of the things though, shit, I forgot what you just said, and I was like, we'll jump to there. There we go.
Whatever it was fantastic.
But
Therapy.
Okay.
Therapy
put a pin in that.
Meds.
Well,
all right. We'll
you did write in one of the, harnessing the good parts.
Yeah.
And so I was curious
it's not all bad.
Yeah,
man.
I was curious about that, and I think probably, at least I think part of some of the good parts are like the wizardry that you've obtained by like being, as Ray would say, a goldfish and going down all these different paths. You like, that's why I said that at the beginning, like, one of the most talented, because you are like the one guy I know that kind of can do everything. Like maybe you're not an expert. Actually, I mean, I think you would say you're not an expert at all the things, but you can,
I know I'm not
you
an
at
expert,
least like, I've seen you figure out shit so that you could basically create an entire app, even though last week, maybe all you knew how to do is front-end development, and you're like, well, let me just learn this thing, because if I use this, it can do this. And by the end of it, you know how to like at least like get something launched. And you're like, all right, well, we validated it. Now let's like get the experts to come rebuild it or whatever. And I was like always been super impressed by that.
Yeah, there's a line in the sand I won't allow anybody to cross for me, and it's you're a craftsman. I'm not. I'm a jack of all trades, master of none for sure.
Oh wait,
and that
dude,
phrase.
do you know there's a continuation? That's not the full phrase.
Oh yeah.
What is it?
Yeah, that's what I was about to do. Yeah, it's oftentimes better than a master of one. And that's,
wait, so say the full thing so people know what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Jack of all trades, master of none. That's where like most people stop. And you go, oftentimes better than a master of one. And like that's honestly like I didn't know that back half of that for a long time.
I don't think anybody, most people don't know that.
And that line has made me feel like shit for like a really long time.
I know, same, dude. Because I am really a jack of all. Like, and like, you're right, man. Like, if I need to, I mean, the obstacle is always the way for me. So, like, if it was, I gotta go find data to make somebody listen to me. Like, time to learn fucking SQL.
Yeah.
Like, shit. Like, I need to learn how to run experiments. Oh God, I have to understand statistical significance, and I didn't go to college. Like this is terrifying.
But it's always so cool because then you have like learned that shit to where I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever.
It is, yeah. And I think it helps that I'm pretty excited about most of the shit I'm learning. But like, the journey has been really interesting. It's like be the best CSS nerd on the planet. That was be a craftsman of that shit. And I got real close to that.
When we first met, that was you.
Yeah. That was me. Yeah. First job together. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like one executive goes, nobody gives a fuck if you have a table of contents in your CSS if they can't buy anything because the button's off the page. Like, get the button on the page. I don't care how it gets on the page. I need the button. And I was like, oh my God, that shifted my perspective fast.
Yeah.
Like, and that changed me to value delivery oriented skill sets. And so like from that it went, oh Jesus, what was next, man? I wrote it so that I could remember this shit. Like
on top
it was oh God, where is it? It was like at the bottom of this like 12-page document that I wrote on my fucking phone.
You wrote this on your phone, by the way?
Holy shit.
I did, yeah. Well, it's a Z fold, so it's like a little like it opens up and
yeah, whatever.
Like more like
in order for me to write this,
tablet,
what you wrote last night, I would have needed like a
couldn't-
full week.
I couldn't
and I would
move.
have needed like
Yeah.
coffee and my keyboard and my desk to be clean.
Yeah, because the message here was really important to me, and it was like you're gonna set a goalpost and you have a destination in mind for your career, but like don't hate it when you land in a different destination.
Yeah.
Like it's often better than the destination you could have possibly imagined beforehand with no experience. But yeah, it was like CSS into agency man, like. UX design stuff, which, my emotional dysregulation totally ruined for me because I got way too attached to everything and I couldn't handle the rejection. And I had to walk away from that because I was getting way too wound up in it. But UX got way too wound up in it, and the emotional rejection of trashing things and stuff like that. Walked away from that and then moved into launching a business with my brother.
Oh, yeah.
A pretty respectable little agency with like 20 guys running creative for that shit. And then from there, and then knowing, especially then, when I was outpaced and needed to bring in the big guns, and then I talked to you, Steve, pull in your guys on your agency, 37 Argyle.
39.
I think, was that 39 Argyle? Yeah. And then from there, it went marketing, and then from there, it went growth hacking, and then that was cool because it was all about experimentation and just like rapid iteration. And
and you were like the first person I ever heard using that word, like literally 14 years ago or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. It was not popular in Dallas. I would have done a lot better if I was in San Francisco learning how to grow.
Yeah, I remember.
And making that my career objective, But I had moved on, and left San Francisco at that point. But like, yeah. Anyway, ultimately, they all like smished together, and I landed in like product management, like niches. Like, how do you pronounce this? This is a podcast. I don't even know how to say this.
Well,
like niche.
I've heard it's okay both ways. Why I like to say niches is because it rhymes with riches. Niches get riches.
That's not what I thought
you were going with that.
I know.
I was like, wow.
Actually, when it came out of my mouth, I was actually thinking what you guys were thinking. I was like, am I saying this right? Yeah, niches get riches. But it's, I think it's kind of niche sounds,
I always
right?
say niche, and I always hate it when people say, how did you? I don't even know how to say it the other
Well,
way.
no, Ray, me too. Niche. I actually prefer saying niche, but I just like niches get riches.
Niches.
Yeah.
Niche sounds
well, so
anyway, go ahead.
I guess like the yeah. Let me goldfishes back home. Like really like that has landed me in 2 different product management roles that are highly specialized. One was product management of MarTech, which is dope. I love that shit. That's like about 1,000 different technologies you're interfacing with a day.
MarTech?
Like, to figure out how to get MarTech, like marketing
gotcha,
technology.
yeah.
So it's like, it's the super fucking nerdy side of marketing, but it's absolutely what gets you a push notification that makes you addicted to something.
Yeah, that stuff's
Like,
super interesting. That's what you need
MarTech.
to help us
Yeah.
with for this podcast, actually.
Nice. and then the other one now really is like taking that growth hacking passion and that experimentation shit and then applying it to product management as well. And so like now it's like product management of growth, or in this case where I'm at now, it's like conversion, right? All that stitches together like to say like, I thought I was going to be a fucking CSS guy.
Right.
Man. Like,
yeah.
Right? Like now I'm in product management where I don't have a team. I have no power. Like, I am a dotted line to everybody, and I am just making good, conscious decisions about the business viability, the user on the other side, and I'm interfacing with every single person doing a job I've done before. And then I'm adding in all this experimentation understanding and how to, like, validate my own fucking ideas, right? Like, and that's super cool. Like, that is a much better destination than I could have ever imagined at any point.
No, I agree.
And it all happened kind of happenstance, and I was willing to like move my goalposts. Like that's the goal. Like, don't have like a fixed goal. Be willing to shift as you land in a different spot.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, no, I agree, because I mean, like, whenever I reached back out to you and brought you on, you know, at the previous company to like head up front end development, that's because that's who I knew you were. Or that's what, you know, that's how we knew each other.
Yeah.
But then the stuff you actually ended up doing. So I remember like, you know, first came on, you're doing some front end development, and then I realized like me as not the front end developer saw some of your front end code, and I was like, oh shit, Ken has not evolved with like the industry. And you're like, that's okay, don't worry about it. And I was like, oh fuck. But then you started doing that's when we launched Robin, and you were one of the lead lead developers, or I don't know whatever your role was. You were one of the leads.
It's really not fair to call me that.
Okay,
but yeah, that
lead
was what
developer,
I was doing.
maybe not the right word, but like you were one of the leads.
No, it was just like this, just ragtag little team.
For launching that product.
They built a product from ground up.
And then once I got to actually see like what you had started to do, I was like, oh, wait a minute, this is what he was talking about. Like, this is so much more valuable and much better.
Yeah, you know, like these guys that were leads at Dialexa that were trying to ramp me up on Ember.js.
Dude, I remember I learned how to use to code in Ember. That's when I realized that our design team was not going to be doing front end development.
yeah. I think the thing that was so different was these guys were like obsessed about perfect code, and like I'm over here like, yo, we got a launch date in like days. Like, fuck your perfect code. Like, I need this thing to just work. Like, what's the fastest way to get there? And like, that's where I like laugh when somebody would have called me a lead dev.
Right.
Like, I wasn't, man. I was the blunt force trauma you needed to get that thing across the finish line.
Yeah.
Like, and then when it failed miserably, I was the experiment guy that could get everything like tested iteratively and quickly, right? Like retention programs run in Google spreadsheets and shit. Like, it was just hilarious. Like, with codes that tracked fucking everything they did, you know? Like,
well, hey, Ken, Ray's got to jump, but you want to stick around a little bit?
Yeah. So I got to bounce because I'm a goldfish and my wife needs me to do like 27 other things. But the thing that I want from you is like, I want you to shit all over our podcast and tell us all the things we're doing wrong and all the things that we could do better. So, because I
sure. It's going to be 10 pages.
That's fine. I'll actually read it. I'll actually read it. One time in my life, I'll read something. Just because it's like we've worked together before and like at One Technologies and stuff like that, and like I'd seen you guys before, obviously, because I was always at Dialexa. But we vibe on like the how can we experiment with some crazy shit? Like what if Like Steve was wearing like gold makeup or something in one of the episodes. Like, you know what I mean? Like we'll do like WWF style, like, and we'll like dress up. Like I want you to come up with like the craziest shit. So, but anyway, it was awesome, man. I'm sorry I gotta bounce early, y'all. I love y'all.
Yeah.
Bye.
Nah, you're good, dude. You're good. See ya.
Yeah, I've been
cool, man.
I've been told I look like a wrestler more than once.
I love that, dude. I love that, man. Oh man,
well, dude,
that's great. Dude, that's so funny that I didn't know, Ray was diagnosed or anything either, and he's talking about medication and stuff. Like that's awesome, man. Like it's just so interesting how many people are actually struggling the same way you are, and you just never know. Like,
well, yeah, I mean, there's like two different things there, right? One, there's like, literally the thing you said when we kicked it off was like, I think people, and look, I'm guilty of this. So it's like, with ADHD specifically, people, I've heard that comment, like, aren't we all just a little ADHD and you just got to focus or some shit like that.
Yeah. You're just not disciplined.
Yeah, we just didn't really know. But then there's also like the like we said, like there's the demon, what's the word? Demonizing of like just medication, right? It's like, oh, dude, you're on meds, or like people talking like water cooler talk, dude. Ken's on meds, which probably
yeah. Well, that's actually
go ahead.
That's a good segue, man, because like. This new job, I decided to just fucking own it. And like, as a product manager, you land, they airdrop you out of the ship, especially if you're remote. And then they go, here's like 20 people you need to know. Like, these are your stakeholders, right? Like, make sure you have a good conversation with them. No guidance, nothing like, and so, I went really deep on that shit and was like, how do you do this? Like, I want to do this shit right from the beginning.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And like, it's just so ridiculous, like, to get there and like do that shit. But like, I'm going to do this shit perfect from the beginning. And like, so then I go read, like, for days, I'm researching what are the best things that a product manager can do in their first days, when they have these one-on-ones. And I build these templates of like questions and like, I had like a whole system ready to go, and I ripped through all 20 of those people and asked really fucking hard shit, but like hard shit about like I interviewed them almost like, but in a way that let them like open up to me and like get honest and like hey, this isn't like I'm not taking notes or anything. I'm like literally just writing down like bullets from your things that can help. Like. Yeah, like, and like, man, people just told me. That's always kind of the thing that's been helpful for me. It's like, people just tell me.
Your thing that you need to, like, launch.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm just stealing from, like, 10 different places.
You consolidate.
Like,
that's a product. Right?
Yeah. But there's, like, a kind of a point, like, where, I say, like, do you have any questions for me or anything? And, some people would ask, like, how can I best work with you? How do you like to work? And then if it didn't come up in that way, I would just say, like, I work best this way. But I got real with everybody, and I just was like, I know we just met, like, an hour ago, but, like, I want you to know this about me. And then the first time I said it to my manager, and I was like, he's, like, the group, VP product guy or whatever. I'm terrible with titles.
I got you.
It's so flat. Like, but, like... I was like, yeah, man, I just want you to know I have ADHD, so, like, there's just a full fucking smattering of shit that makes product management difficult and makes interaction difficult. Here's some tips to work with me. And I got kind of like, all right, we're all a little ADHD, bro. Like, you just back at school,
interesting.
And it was just that look that he gave me where I knew, like, he
didn't know.
It's not clicking. Like, he just doesn't know, And then, so the next, 19 people I talked to, I was, like, really straightforward and honest with them about my symptoms. I got time blindness. I have emotional dysregulation. I don't pick up on your nuance as well. Like, yeah. And I'm, like, laying out, some big ones, and I'm just saying, like, I'm very neurodivergent. I'm on several spectrums. It's a buy one get seven free,
how were people responding to that
kind of thing? that was the coolest part, and I'm glad that you brought me home on that. Like, half of them were also neurodivergent.
Really?
Super fucking cool. Yeah,
wow.
Half. So, like, autism, ADHD, like, the full fucking, like, smattering of shit, like, that make it so fucking hard to be remote, right? Like, thankfully, this company has, like, camera on all the time policy. Like,
interesting.
So if you're on a call,
yeah. No, that's
your
good.
nonverbals are critical. So, like, fucking pop your cameras on, boys. Like, I don't care if you're a developer or not. I don't care if you're in your pajamas or not. We don't care. Like, just turn your camera on so we can communicate.
Yeah.
Like humans.
No, what I thought you meant was just like camera on all day.
No, not like that. But like
specifically, I'm very pro camera on if you're in a meeting.
Same. Yeah.
It just makes it so much better. It's also weird when like a handful of people have their camera on and a handful don't. You're like, all right, I feel like I'm talking to these 3 people and there's like 3 people just listening in or whatever.
Yeah. But yeah, I can't recommend this enough if you feel comfortable, you know, telling your coworkers, especially the ones you're close with already, but like, you know, I really ripped the Band-Aid off and sort of jumped off the cliff all at once. Like, not sure if I even had a parachute yet. Like, by just introducing myself with this shit, but like it changed everything about how people perceive me correctly. So like when my working memory, you know, falls apart and I goldfish it up, right? I am no longer like internally having a panic attack about them thinking I'm stupid, you know, like this is what you trade on is your respect as a product manager, you know, like
inside and you're like, fuck, I sound like an idiot. Well, so
and you don't even just pause and give yourself,
dude, I'm definitely ADHD, bro. I gotta get this shit checked out.
I think you should definitely talk to somebody, man. You might be, and you probably would like have a lot of help from like any sort of treatment method, but I you know, if people feel like they are, I never go, no bro, you're not. Like, nah, definitely not. Like, I mean, if this resonates with you, you might be, and there's nothing wrong with that, man. Like, it's a really accepting world we're in right now.
Well, but
like,
you were...
Listen to this stat.
No, go ahead.
Like okay, this is cool.
This
like,
is
everybody
statistic?
needs to hear this shit. Everybody. Like, yeah, this stat is super cool. I can't remember the exact percentage, but people give themselves a quarter of the time to stop and think about what they're going to say. They give 4 times as much time as they give themselves.
Interesting.
So, like, I need to think about something, Steve. You'll let me sit there for, like, a full 4 seconds, where if I sit there for one, I'm having, like, internal stress,
know what you're talking
right?
about.
Like, So, like, you know, the team, you know, when I trip up, and this was, like, really critical for me, like, when I trip up and my working memory starts falling apart in the middle of me starting to, you know, say some shit to my team just laughs it off like no big deal. They're not laughing at me. They don't even laugh sometimes. They're just like, you were talking about this.
Oh, dude,
and then
I love that.
we pick it right back up because they know my working memory is half as good as the neurotypical working memory. And like maybe even worse. You know, it's definitely a gradient. Not everybody with ADHD has terrible working memory. But you are impacted by it significantly because your brain is moving at light speed all the time and you can't
I love
tune
that
it out,
because...
Right? Like,
it's we all like this isn't that we all have low ADHD, but we all have our own little quirks and our own little personality. I don't know why I'm throwing that in there, but like we have our own personalities and quirks and all that. And what I think is cool is like recognizing the, you know, the overarching value, like, cause like you know, it's not me patting you on the back. Like, you know, like, you bring value and you're good at what you do, and you know, and so it's.
I don't know it as well as you might think I do.
Well, you know you're okay.
I've had to really deal with that.
You know you're okay, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
I know I get the job done. Yeah.
What's cool is like when you know your team recognizes it's like, okay, maybe, and I'm gonna be extreme here, but like maybe Ken sounds like a bumbling idiot for a second, but like. We know he's a total, you know, okay, we know he's pretty good at what he does. I'll tone it down and not say a total badass.
Sure. Yeah.
But right. So it's really cool that, and I think which is like the big value of you putting it out on the table. You're just going to be like, hey, every once in a while, like I get ahead of myself and, you know, so if it happens, it just happens. And the fact that you don't care about it, like I think also does 2 things. one, it if you don't give a shit about it, your team's not going to like make as big a deal out of it, probably. But then when your team doesn't make a big a deal out of it, it's going to normalize it for you so that when you do kind of get into that bumbly space, it doesn't like make you get worse. Because I've had that happen. I talked about that, and actually,
right. Oh yeah.
You know, I called it. When Ray and I were talking about it in another episode, I called it like shitting the bed when I was doing a proposal.
Yeah.
Because like.
Yeah. Dude, yes. Yes. The proposals are so savage when you do this. Like, oh, just like I am cold sweating like immediately, dude. Like every internal reaction is like firing on all cylinders all at once, and you're just in pure sheer panic,
dude. In this meeting.
Finally, your brain clicks
it together. No, my brain didn't click it together. Well, no, I did recover only after I stopped and I had to say like, "Oh, sorry guys, I'm a little nervous." Like, I could hear myself.
Yeah. Oh, that's really effective.
And it was good. It got me back on, but I hated that I had to say that. But
I think that vulnerability is amazing.
It actually worked out pretty well.
I think people respond really well. Okay, good.
People did respond pretty well. And I just told the story a couple episodes ago, but the quick version is basically like, you know, it was massive commercial real estate company, which you probably know who it is, and we go there and all the dudes are like wearing impeccable suits, which is another thing that made me go like, these guys know what the fuck they're talking about. Like, it's not just some smart consultant that like is wearing like a dad suit. The dude knows how to dress. He's smart. And there was this one guy who was like their, head of development, or I don't know what his title was, but he was like one of the main guys. And we're going around, and he looks at me, and he's not fun. The other guys are like, yeah, we're talking shit, we're having fun. Well, this guy, he looks straight at me and goes, and what exactly is the value you're going to bring to this project? And I was like,
oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of like, but the thing is, I had like
I've seen you manhandle.
I know,
guys like
but
that,
this
though,
guy.
Man. Like
here's what
deal
happened.
With that.
So basically, I had my like, oh hey, yeah. So let me explain. I'm the head of whatever, blah 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 blah. But then like I got a little bit ahead of myself, and then I started hearing myself, and then it just turned into shit. And I was like, I got hot, and I felt like I was like sweating immediately, and it probably was like red. I don't know what it really looked like.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't, like in that moment, I couldn't fix it. And I was like, that's when I finally just said, sorry guys, I'm just getting, just a little nervous. And everybody except for that dude was like, oh dude, you're cool, man. Like we're on board. Let's just, we just want to get to know you. And that was like, then I was like, bing. So anyway, blah, 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 blah. And it was like perfect because I was allowed to have a little grace, kind of as you would put it.
Yeah, totally, man. Like, I have a story to swap with you on that one. So we got this big ass project coming down the pipe. Massive, man. Huge new product line that we need to figure out. It is enormous. We got a calendar notification. I just met my team like a week ago. Like, at that moment anyway. And then the calendar invite I just ignored. All right, that's not now. That is definitely a fucking ADHD thing. Like, now exists, not now doesn't exist. So just whatever, right? So then, like, I've gotten in the routine habit of looking 3 days ahead and looking at every calendar item and then forcing blocks of time into my calendar for me to have focus, right? So that nobody can book over it. And if they do, they know they're the asshole that's doing that.
Totally.
And so, like, that gets me that 4 hours of product management a day that really actually kind of give you product management as a discipline. The rest is cat herding and, influence and hunting and, whatever, right? So, like, I'm doing that process. I'm filling my gaps out. What is this meeting at? 4 to 5 p.m. Like, danger zone for me because that's when my meds are starting to fall apart. Yeah,
just a horrible time to meet.
And then also just bad, right? Like, and I see it's got like fucking 40, 50 people on it. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. And then I remember and start connecting the dots. The VP of engineering says, will you be ready with estimates and timelines for this behemoth?
Asks you
for that meeting. Yeah, it just says generally to the channel product managers. Are you guys all going to be ready? I'm one weekend of meeting
Okay.
my team of
Gotcha.
engineers. That team just got shattered into OKR teams, right? Like from this monolith team to like this like
Yeah.
you know, fast, scrappy guys that are going to work on some KPI. That all got scrapped because of this project. Like, we weren't even going to do KPI shit. And I'm thinking, whatever this discovery is, that's an outline. That's not a fucking discovery. We have no way to estimate this shit. Like, but I've been kind of smelling from agency life and product life and, you know, going through enough, like, timeline estimations that I know that this is going to be a terrible, like, estimate, right? We're so far from the reality of what we need to get to. And I had no purchase saying this stuff and trying to get everybody to, like, pivot, right? And, like, carve out an MVP. And so, like, oh, man, dude. I show up this meeting, and these guys, like, I have to go to these guys on my team to get these estimates for this meeting. Let's just rewind before the meeting. It's like 2 days before the meeting, and I'm like, guys, we're the only team that will show up to this shit without estimates. I don't know what to do. I'm looking at this shit. We are the tip of the fucking spear of every other piece of work. It all comes into our front end, and we have to consume all of it. And, like, I don't know shit about this. Like, and, like, I barely understand the outline. Like, this is fintech.
Okay.
Like, so this isn't shit you can just wing, right? And, like, you're like, well, the users will figure it out or whatever. Nah, you got to get all your shit in a row and, like, make that work, right? And then, like, the aggressive timeline was, like, a month away for this project to be done.
Jesus.
Like, that we have 40 people in a call all needing to deliver estimates about. Like, now there's, like, 6 or 7 product managers in there that are individually going to talk about their estimates, right? But, like, I had to get up in front of all these people, trade on my currency of product management currency, which is respect and trust, right? Those two things are how you make things happen with product management. And, like, it's terrifying. I hadn't even met, like, 90% of these people. And, like, my team, I had to, like, beg to, like, grind out, like, for a full day, 7 hours of estimation. Like, build a backlog for this outline that was so woefully, like, full of gaps. Like, that we spotted and we had to take into account. And we were first. We had to get up in front of this gauntlet first, man. And, like, now, okay, that's my perspective.
Okay.
Like, fuck, you know? Like, later, in talking to, like, you know, the chief product officer, his perspective was, listen, we're just getting shit done efficiently.
Yeah.
You know, we're getting everybody in a room. They're all your peers. Whatever, man. It's all good. He really kind of didn't realize what kind of insane situation he put us all in to, like, get up in front of everybody and say some shit, you know? Like, and we had to come in there and say 1 of 5 tasks with some real bullshit time estimation because we're a young team that has no velocity to really work from. It's 3 times the size of something that took a month of business days. A month, 30 days of business days. So, like, really, like, timeline-wise, like, a month and a half, kind of, you know? So you're looking at, like, 80 business days for 1 of the 5 tasks we need to get done. And then, like, everybody is like, whoa, can we talk about that? Like, what is that? You know, like, because everybody else is fairly optimistic, I think, anyway, right? So then I just have to get, like, really vulnerable and say, like, listen, like, I'm, like, nervous, like, to say the reality of this project, but we don't know the answers to what you're asking because it's not fucking
so you're telling them this?
Like, and...
Yeah.
Yeah, and then 2, like, every time I hear you guys talk about some margin of error on timelines with this client, like, you're describing it in 3 to 4 days of missing the estimate. Like, that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. Like, this is not Agile, you know? Like, you miss an estimate in Agile, like, you'll figure it out in the next 2 weeks, and it might get a little tighter, but that's about it. Like, you're almost always grossly wrong or, like, pretty kind of right, you know? Like, and it was just like, oh man, it was just so intense, you know? And, like, I had to finally say, like, I feel like you guys have told us to eat an elephant in one bite, and you set up an impossible goal line for us to hit. And anytime we talk to you about it not being achievable, you generally brush us aside about it and then try and find a way to make it fit. And then when I tell you it's 1 out of 5 of the tasks, and so that doesn't mean you'll get it in 80 business days. You'll get 1 of the 5 tasks in business days. You pick not April, May, but just April is all you talk about. And then you talk about it as if all of it will get done. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I am terrified to tell you the reality because you aren't listening to me.
I know what you want to hear, and that can't come out of my mouth.
Yeah, and then I get buried in Slacks in real time while I'm going through this shit. Because, I looked at this has never happened to me in my life. My hands were fucking shaking crazy. Like, when I get up in front of all these people. Like, I mean, I was that nervous, And, dude, my lead dev, he's a fucking introvert, too. The most maximum version of introversion. And we got to know each other really well in the company get together, right? But, he's also neurodivergent. This shit is just, we're both oh God! When are we gonna get off of this ride, And but I got so much fucking support from so many people all at once in my Slack. All these people are like, yo, our estimates are bumped too, and we're gonna stand by you. We were based on no real fabricated, none of this shit is real, and this has been needing to be said to these executives for a long time, and all this, just a lot, and these are people that are graybeards, long in the tooth, they have been sharpening that tooth on this company for a while, and I'm why are you saying this shit, But what was amazing to me was that this is the scariest thing I've ever done in front of people before, ever, and I've done a bunch of stupid shit in front of people, a lot of professional shit,
to be
that.
Yeah, you've done a lot of public stuff too.
Yeah, and I was never this nervous, but I was also never rewarded so profoundly with so much support by so many people, and then garnering so much respect and being a agent of change for the culture, all at once, I think vulnerability in front of your peers and the people you're trying to impress even, and, even your underlings, all of that shit, it's so critical for you just to be real. And it's such an important lesson. And so, now I'm just fucking Ken all the time, man. And I'm just real with everybody all the time, and it's just so helpful. It's really shocking. And, man, watching my team come alive when I told them, hey, fuck all of this shit. Carve me out an MVP. You tell me what's fast and what's not. What actually delivers the value by February? That's what they want. When can we get them this?
And that's your superpower.
But what version of that is fucking tighter than that? Just cut fucking everything that's nonsense, and we will start from what they cannot do. And then we'll
unsubscribe.
Work from there,
No, we don't need that.
Yeah. Support links, fuck that shit. Paper checks, maybe we just mail them paper checks for their loans. I don't know. Let's just get that done. That was not business viable, by the way. But unfortunately, most of the things really required us to really build it out. But I later found out that wasn't the gauntlet I thought it was. Right? It was presented to me in that way because the guy that really needed those estimates to just get started is more of kind of he's a good stage manager, right? He knows how to get people to get things done. If that creates a little stress, so be it. That's kind of his mentality, the chief product officer, though, he's laying it out as, yo, don't lie to me. I need to know the truth about shit. This is just a business opportunity goal.
Right.
That's it. And if you can't hit that goal, tell me what you can hit and when, and we'll go from there and work with the client on that, right? It's fine. We will manage that. That's okay.
That's the point.
That's a totally different story than what I was getting, though.
Which I feel is old school, right? It's just have it is.
It's very old school.
And then it's somebody knows that it's not going to get done. They're that's okay. We'll just let them, work nights and weekends to get it done, so we're in a good spot. And you're well, no, that's not. That's not the way it should work. Let's figure out the reality. And let's.
I think. Yeah, exactly, dude. And I think the most rewarding thing the most rewarding thing that happened was watching my team go from zombies at the end of a 7-hour estimation process to me rolling back in there and going, yo, Chief Product Officer just said, are you thinking like a CEO? He hasn't really given us the opportunity to think like a CEO the way he's asked for this shit. But, like, what if we did? In 10 minutes, they had 3 MVP ideas that were radical and different, but would have gotten us money at the timeline that we needed. And they were like, yo, I can do this all day. This is fun. Like, I want to solve problems like this. And, like, now we're so fucking tight as a team that, like, I mean, I'd crawl through glass for these guys now. Like, and I have had to a couple of times. Like, that was really glass, inducing and feeling meetings where I'm like, this shit's not fucking helpful and I need you to leave the room or help us get this shit done. Because this is not your meeting and this is my team's shit and their time and you're wasting it right now, And, like, being able to stand up for these guys in that way and, like, step forward as a leader is what I've always wanted to do over and over. I've always wanted to build a team that is like that, And I got my, like, team of misfits that are willing to, like, bend the rules and ignore the fucking directive,
What's all the...
it's just amazing, dude. And it was... All of that came from me just being vulnerable, dude.
Dude, the
all
payoff.
of that shit was just me getting up there and being like... I'm fucking terrified to tell you the real shit. Like, because of the way you're teeing this stuff up in the culture here right now. Like, it doesn't feel right, And, like, we're changing shit. And it's so awesome, dude. Like, it's so exciting. And these guys are just in a much better place now. Like,
that's fucking amazing, bro. Well, dude, congrats on that. Like, kind of really shit in your pants and, like, probably wondering if it was like your last day at your new job. And then it pays off.
I sat in this chair for 2 hours after that meeting and just worked through all those thoughts, man. Did multiple meditations and multiple box breathing. And like,
dude. Well, bro, this has been great. There's like so much more cool shit I'd love to chat about. We're at an hour and a half, so I feel like, we're going to let some time go by and have to do a, Ken Hanson part 2.
Cool. That sounds great, dude. You sign me up for that right now.
Well, dude, I know you aren't really like, doing a lot on social media, but is there anywhere anybody could follow you if they want to like know what's going on with you?
I'm really not good about updating social media at all these days. I would have said like, Instagram, I do post like my fun shit, like mechanical keyboards and woodworking and stuff like that. But and feel free to follow me there. It's at Ken Makes All the Things. And then if you want to talk to me professionally or you're interested in trying to figure experimentation out that we really didn't get to touch on much, but like. Or like you're just trying to figure out how to like approach your ADHD in the workplace and. I mean, I'm not an expert, but I can tell you what I've been through. Like, LinkedIn is just, in/Ken.Hanson.
And I'll put all this in the show notes.
Hanson.
Yeah.
So.
Well, sweet, dude. Cool, well, again, man, thanks for coming on and making the time. Good to chat.
It is a blast hanging out
likewise.
again.
We'll have to do some in-person action.
Too long.
Well, awesome.
100%.
Well, hey, thanks everybody for joining us. I hope you enjoyed this episode with Ken. He's a bad motherfucker, and I'm glad he's my friend. Please subscribe, hit the bell so you get all the notifications, leave us some comments, and holler at Ken. Get at him on LinkedIn. He's a fucking super smart dude. So with that being said, hey, enjoy the rest of your week, and until next time, I'm Stephen Ray. This is Ken Hanson. And deuces. I always fuck it up, Ken. I always fuck up the end. And I'm not even going to edit this out. It's going to be in the podcast. So, all right, bro. Have a good one, man. Talk to you soon.
That's great.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, you too, dude. See ya.